Some of y'all have been arguing in my comments about what I'm actually going to talk about in my thesis, and I know that we've had a lot of thesis content. However, y'all are chomping at the bit to know everything. So let's dive in, shall we? First thing we're going to talk about is the humiliation-based trauma. It's crazy. It's like almost that's the title. With humiliation-based trauma, we're going to talk about emotional degradation, which is like constantly making youngsters feel inadequate or worthless. A lot of helplessness goes into this too. It creates a lot of emotional instability. Chronic ridicule. I don't think I need to go over that one. Shame and humiliation. And then we're going to roll into maternal attachment trauma, which goes into maternal rejection, enmeshment. I've seen some people commenting that you're smart. Enmeshment is so incredibly important because it's the healthy identity development and the emotional autonomy, meaning you can make your own choices, you're independent, like you have your own free will thinking, may be hampered by entanglement, which can lead to dependency issues and animosity. So like, let's say you have a mom and the son, and the mom is like, you ain't leaving nowhere with me, son. You can't have no girlfriend, and I'm the one that's supposed to be the most important in your life, and F you, and da da da, and I hate you, and you're stupid. Like, what? Like, you got me all like, we're like this, but then you're mean to me. Disorganized attachment is next, which, duh. If you have an attachment like that with your mom, I don't really think that's healthy. Then we're going to roll into sadistic and coercive violence, which talks about instrumental aggression, sexual sadism, dominance-oriented violence, which the coercion or the coercive violence and the dominance, I feel as though they kind of go hand in hand, but they need to be talked about separately because not everyone who's coercively controlling, well, okay, that's a lie because they are kind of trying to dominate the situation. But with dominance-oriented violence, you're pretty much trying to employ aggression to like everyone of shame, vulnerability, helplessness, emotional insecurity. It's extremely important with what we're talking about. Then you have attachment theory and developmental trauma. And with attachment theory, we're going to talk about Bowlby's attachment theory, which is essentially early caregiver interactions have an impact on internal psychological development, interpersonal functioning, and emotional security. Inner working models, which is teaching children essentially about like connection, safety, vulnerability, and about themselves and who they are and what life is, how you should function. If you don't have a working model, you're kind of not on a good path. I think that's a good way to put it. And emotional dysregulation, I mean, I think that comes out of left field, like we already know, right? We already know that one. Trauma-related personality development. This goes into maladaptive personality organization, emotional instability, vulnerability, sensitivity, and defensive relational habits. It's produced by chronic attachment trauma. Shame, humiliation, violence, duh. We're gonna talk about shame, rage cycle. I already gave you some facts on some shame, rage cycle, dude. Oh, my Lanta. Anger, hostility, violence, and retaliatory action are examples of how chronic shame can be externalized as a barrier against emotional powerless or feelings of inadequacy. That is going to be one that I'm probably going to drive home on. This has to be 20 pages, so I think you can see that I'm easily going to hit that. Narcissistic injury, shall I say more? Externalization of shame, acting outward on your shame. Hurt people, hurt people. Violence as compensation for vulnerability. Yay! I'm vulnerable, so let me be mean. Maternal dynamics and male identity formation. Maternal over control. Duh. Dependency conflicts, identity disturbance, fear of vulnerability and intimacy. I feel like people are going to be like weirded out or questioning that one, but yeah, that'd be happening. Developmental pathways toward coercive violence, emotional dissociation, fantasy development, which let me touch base on that really quick. A compensatory escape from feelings of inadequacy, humiliation, helplessness, or emotional powerlessness may give rise to maladaptive fantasy development. Now, you guys are seeing a lot of this feeling of inadequacy, humiliation, helplessness, emotional powerlessness. It's almost like there's a pattern. Dominance and control behaviors, duh. Violence as restoration of power. You can only, if you're violent, you're weak. You're weak, you're weak, you're weak, you're weak, you're weak, you're weak, you're weak. I'm talking about this in therapy right now because that's why I'm like, oh, driving it home, it irritates me so bad. Empirical research and offender literature, sexual homicide research, psychopathy, and developmental trauma, coercive offender patterns, limitations, and counterarguments. Trauma does not directly cause violence. The majority of wounded people do not turn violent, and trauma by itself cannot adequately account for criminal behavior. Facts. Multifactorial explanations of aggression. So interactions between biological, psychological, environmental, developmental, and social factors lead to the development of violence. This is going to be a section that you guys are going to love because I've been getting a lot of comments. I'm telling you, a lot of like a different spectrum of things. A lot of them too are like, you need to look at the mom's biology. Hold on. There are some mamas who will go out here and do things to their sons, okay? But there are good moms out there too. But here, yes, because y'all been hounding me, I'm going to try to add some of the biological factors in there too. Okay? And then the rest of this is just kind of like closing out my thesis. It's going to talk about the implications for forensic psychology. So it's explaining how the developmental model that I'm making is useful for forensic evaluation, intervention, prevention, and rehabilitation. Violence risk assessment, that's like the main part of my job. Trauma-informed intervention, double duh. Prevention and rehabilitation approaches. Conclusion, summary of findings, importance of developmental frameworks, and then the need for future research. So I went through that really fast. Don't worry. I just sent the email to my teacher asking if I can post it at the end of the semester. If I am able to, I mean, you guys are going to have a ball with this. It's going to be long. Okay, so put your thinking caps on because it's got to be at least 20 pages, and I guarantee I'll hit 20, if not a little bit over. So stand by for some thesis.